ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मायं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुन् श्रीयुतापदकमलम् श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातम् सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं स्वावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपीश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुस्तुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shashwin, for the wonderful Mangalacharan. Prabhuji, can we hand over to you? We are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, second chapter, verse number 19.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So we're now continuing with the Lord in the Heart, text 19. Itam munis tiparamed vyavastito vijnana drigvirya surandityayasayaha swaparsnina pidya gudam tatonilam staneshu sansunayam mayej jita klamaha. Translation. By the strength of scientific knowledge, one should be well situated in absolute realization and thus be able to extinguish all material desires. One should then give up the material body by blocking the air hole through which stool is evacuated, and with the heel of one's foot, and by lifting the life air from one place to another in the 6 primary places. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. There are many Duratmas who claim to have realized themselves as Brahman and yet are unable to conquer material desires. In Bhagavad Gita 1854, it is clearly explained that an absolutely self-realized soul becomes completely aloof from all material desires. Material desires are based on the false ego of the living being and are exhibited by his childish and useless activities to conquer the laws of material nature, and by his desire to lord it over the resources of the 5 elements. With such a mentality, one is led to believe in the strength of material science, with its discovery of atomic energy and space travel by mechanical vehicles. And by such tiny advancements in material science, the false egoist tries to challenge even the strength of the Supreme Lord, who can finish all man's tiny endeavors in less than a second. The well-situated self, or Brahman realized soul, perfectly understands that the Supreme Brahman, or the personality of Godhead, is the all-powerful Vasudeva, and that he, the self-realized living being, is a part and parcel of the Supreme Whole. As such, his constitutional position is to cooperate with him in all respects in the transcendental relation of the served and the servitor. Such a self-realized soul ceases to exhibit his useless activities of attempting to lord it over material nature. Being scientifically well informed, he fully engages himself in faithful devotion to the Lord. The expert yogi, who has thoroughly practiced the control of the life air by the prescribed method of the yoga system, is advised to quit the body as follows. He should plug up the evacuating hole with the heel of the foot and then progressively move the life air on and on to 6 places: the navel, abdomen, heart, chest, palate, eyebrows, and cerebral pit. Controlling the life air by the prescribed yogic process is mechanical, and the practice is more or less a physical endeavor for spiritual perfection. In olden days, such practice was very common for the transcendentalists, for the mode of life and character in those days were favorable. But in modern days, when the influence of the Kali age is so disturbing, practically everyone is untrained in this art of bodily exercise. Concentration of the mind is more easily attained in these days by the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. The results are more effective than those derived from the inner exercise of the life air. Well, I don't know if I can even touch the back of my leg with my ankle, what to speak of putting it in the evacuating hole. I don't even know where this, how on earth would anybody do that? But this is the way it used to be in previous ages, as described here by Srila Prabhupada. And the people who do these yogic postures, Prabhupada is referring to them here in the first sentence. They claim to have realized themselves as Brahman, but yet are unable to conquer the material desires. So conquering the material desires, negating the senses, is simply not possible. This is for the impersonalists, is what we call the Mayavadis. They go towards this goal of negating the senses. It's impossible. It can't be done. What we have to do is engage the senses in the service of the Lord. Yukta Vairagya. Everything can be used in the service of Krishna. Prabhupada always gave the example when he was giving a lecture. He would use the microphone as an example. This microphone is material. It's made up of so many different aspects, so many elements, steel and wire, electricity, and so on and so forth. But we're using it in the service of Krishna. We're not using it in the nightclub. We're not using it in the bar. We're not using it here and there for just sense gratification and just trying to enjoy, squeezing the last drop of enjoyment out of the orange that has already been squeezed to the point where there's nothing left. And then we pick it up and we try to squeeze the last drop of orange juice out of the already eaten orange peel. So there are many points in here, but mostly Prabhupada is decrying those who pursue a material goal, material objective, as indeed the whole Bhagavatam does. It's not that it's negating the material world or just saying, oh, it's all bad. No, it's not. But it's bringing us to the point of helping us to understand that this is not the end all and be all of life. So in the, Prabhupada gives the example that I've been reading in the last few days. I've been reading Rajavidya. And although it's mostly, for the most part, not exclusively, but for the most part, it's Prabhupada's synopsis of his commentary on the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But it embraces also other aspects of the philosophy. But for the most part, it's Prabhupada commenting on the 9th chapter. And the 9th chapter is, I mean, it's got some amazing stuff in there. The Bhagavad Gita itself is quite incredible, but the 9th chapter in particular is it's a very interesting chapter. It's the chapter that Prabhupada quoted from mostly. Of course, he quoted extensively from the whole Gita, but particularly the verses in the 9th chapter Prabhupada quoted on. So this Raja Vidya is a commentary pretty much on that. And Prabhupada says in chapter 1 of Raja Vidya, where he's speaking of verse 1 of the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, as long as we do not surrender, we cannot understand God. And that's a fact. We just can't. We can speculate forever about what is the aspect of God, what is the nature of our relationship, and what are we doing here, why do we come here, so on and so forth. As we've discussed before, the two most important days in your life is, first of all, the day we were born and the day we discover why. And if we understand those, the import of those 2 days, the day we were born and the day we understand why, then everything else falls into place. But if we just ignore that and just go through life like led by a donkey running after a carrot, then it's gone. But Prabhupada says, surrender to God may take many births. But if we accept that God is great, let's accept that as a given. It is possible to surrender to him immediately. And Prabhupada said this in a lecture very strongly in Melbourne in Australia. Madhuvisa Swami, he had organized Prabhupada's tour there. And one member of the audience asked, but it seems so complicated, takes many, many births. Does it have to take so long? Prabhupada immediately, before the question was even asked, before the questioner even finished asking the question, Prabhupada said, in a second. In a second. So, but what are the conditions of that? But generally, this is not our position in the material world, Prabhupada says in Raja Vidya. We are characteristically envious and consequently think, oh, why should I surrender to God? This is the problem. Why should I bow down? And Prabhupada told one karmi in Amsterdam, yeah, you don't want to bow down, but you'll eventually be forced to bow down. One person was very envious of Prabhupada and attacked very aggressively what Prabhupada had to say in a lecture in Amsterdam. It was, yeah, you don't want to bow down. Prabhupada was equally as warrior-like, like a general in the way he retorted to the challenge. Prabhupada wasn't afraid of a challenge, and neither should we. We also shouldn't be afraid of a challenge. We have the highest philosophy. All we have to do is simply repeat what we hear from scripture, what we hear from Srila Prabhupada. So this was Prabhupada's response to the karmi. Why should I surrender to God? I'm independent, I'll work independently, but then what happens at the time of death? Where's your independence? Then you have to bow down. Then you have no choice. Therefore, in order to rectify this misgiving, we have to work for many, many births. And Prabhupada goes on to say something very interesting. I mean, I haven't picked up Raja Vidya for a long time. I must say it's a long time since it's a little book. We all know it. And we distribute it and we give it to people as a gift and so on and so forth. And it's a very easy book to distribute, the King of Knowledge. And we're all familiar with it, but how familiar are we? I was amazed at how unfamiliar I was when I thought I was familiar with this book. Prabhupada says something very interesting. We should all take this in our heads, and especially me. In this regard, Prabhupada says, therefore, in order to rectify this misgiving, we have to work for many births. In this regard, the name of Krishna is especially significant. This is an important point. Please, everyone, read this, the first chapter of Raja Vidya. Krish means repetition of birth, and Na means one who checks. Now, I don't remember reading that, although it's there and I've read it so many times. But Prabhupada is saying here, Krish means repetition of birth, and Na means one who checks. And if you remember from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was asked to explain the meaning of the Maha Mantra, he said, I don't understand. I can't even conceive of the amount of bliss, ambrosial nectar that is contained within the two syllables Krishna. And this is Krishna himself failing to explain the depths of the meaning of the one word out of the Maha Mantra. And what do? We recite this every single day. What is it, 1,728 mantras we chant? And if we do 16 rounds, something like that, I forget the number. Anyway, and we go through the whole thing, we go snick, 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 snick. What time is it? Well, oh, I've only got 2 rounds left. Oh, let me get it over, let me get it done with. This is not the mood. The mood is, please, Lord Krishna, engage me in your service. And then when we dive into that sound vibration, that Shabda Brahma, that Maha Mantra, which is our panacea for all the problems we've got, that's where it's at. That's where, not just take it for granted, Samsara Davana Lida, Jayam Vishnupad, and then we go through the motions. We have to really take it in. Padam padam yadvi padam natesham. We don't know when it's going to stop. We don't know when it's going to end. We don't know when. Look at the state of the world. No one can check his repetition, Prabhupada is saying here. No one can check his repetition of birth and death without the causeless mercy of God. So it's not by my chanting, my mantras, my yagya, my austerity, my tapasya, whatever the case may be, my shloka recitation and all the shlokas that I may know or not know or whatever, that is not it. Prabhupada is saying here, without the causeless mercy of God. It's causeless. That means it's done by him. It's done by the Supreme Lord, by his mercy. That's why I remember when Gaur Govinda Swami came to Kenya, he used to tell me, Vidura Prabhu, this is a crying religion. A crying religion. We just cry, we just beg, we shed tears like Mahaprabhu. He just shed tears begging Krishna, please relieve us from this cycle of birth and death. Engage me in your service. That's the thing. And then in chapter 4, this blew my mind. In chapter 4 of Raja Vidya, the same book, Prabhupada is saying, at present, this world is being managed by Rakshasas. Managed at present. That means now, today. It doesn't mean at the time of Putana and Kamsa and all the different demons who appeared in Krishna Lila. No, Prabhupada said at present. And in a private conversation which I read from Gargamuni, Brahmananda's brother, the other day, Prabhupada named he named the Rakshasas. I won't go into that now. But at present, this world is being managed by the Rakshasas. The Rakshasas are man-eaters who eat their own sons for the satisfaction of their senses. Listen to that. Listen to that. And we see why the world is in chaos. It's gone so far. It's gone so completely beyond comprehension from the point of view of a devotee. We can't even comprehend these things. But here's Srila Prabhupada, the purest of the pure, telling us this is what's going on. At present, today, 2023, it's going on here now. No one Prabhupada wrote this. It was going on then. And Prabhupada said to Umapati Swami on a morning walk in Denver in Colorado, when Umapati said, "Oh, we've been in Maya, since time immemorial, since the beginning of Kali Yuga." Prabhupada says, "No, you haven't." He's talking about you, plural, the world. No, you haven't. You've been in Maya since the last 200 years, since the beginning of the industrial age, the industrial revolution, as it's called in Western society. Because it's then that the whole emphasis on the Rakshasas, the rulers, as Prabhupada is saying here, at present, it was also at present 200 years ago, it's at present today also. It was at present when Prabhupada was with us on the planet. When Prabhupada is saying at present the world's being managed by Rakshasas, because the whole idea was to have the control, the center of power within their grasp. And to do that, they had to create a system in such a way that they draw people away from the countryside, away from the simple living and high thinking, as even in Western society 200 years ago, it was a predominantly rural community. And Prabhupada used to say, predominantly in India, it's a rural community, but that is diminishing. With the population of, at Prabhupada's time, with the population of Mumbai today. I mean, it's insane. The size of these mega cities like Tokyo or Los Angeles. I mean, it can take you 2 days to drive from one side of Los Angeles to the other. Days. Just one city. I stayed there for 6 months. It's insane. They've got highways everywhere. 20-lane highways, and still not enough. So it's because all the people were drawn from the rural community where the Rakshasas had no control because everybody was growing their own food and living a very simple life. So then that was curtailed, and then they built up this industrial revolution, the age of steam, predominantly and that's also the time when the British Raj was created from the East India Company. And then from there, the British Empire got its jewel, India. And what did they do? The first thing they did, they built railways everywhere, all over India. Not for the benefit of the Indians, but to take the resources of the country and bring them all to London. This is what it means that present this world has been managed by Rakshasas. So that's why Prabhupada cut off Umapati Swami. He said, no, not since the beginning of Kali Yuga, only in the last 200 years, since Darwinism became prominent, the so-called survival of the fittest. That's when it came into existence. So we can't be blinded. We can't be going, oh, yeah, let's all love one another and let's all be Jai Haribol. Yes, that's all very well. But we also have to be aware of the realism of what is controlling this world. I had a conversation with Benson and one Mzungu boy in Nairobi this afternoon. And also a few weeks ago, we're trying to set up this social media awareness of presenting the philosophy through the means of social media and how to go about doing that. And this man, he's from Finland. And I met him in the temple. He just walked in the door when he came to the temple in August, when I was sitting with the Askari at the temple gate one afternoon, and he just walked in the door and we just got chatting when I was in Nairobi. So we become friends since then. So he wants to set up a social media platform to propagate the philosophy. And he was saying, for example, one idea, one fact, the population of Kenya today is 55 million. We have in ISKCON, including all our life members and people coming to the temple for the Sunday feast and the Sunday program, coming to Rath Yatra and so on. We have 6,000 people whom we can consider our core community. 6,000 out of 55 million. And that's one country. And you can be sure it's the same for the world over. Maybe perhaps India might have a different statistic, of course, but Prabhupada's mission is a preaching mission to the West. So we have an obligation to spread this philosophy that the whole world is in chaos. Rakshasas are man-eaters who eat their own sons for the satisfaction of their senses, Prabhupada says here. Now, and then he goes on to say, these are Prabhupada's words, this is not me. Now, great regimes have been created to smash so many people for the satisfaction of the Rakshasas' senses. Great regimes have been set up to smash us, so many people, for the satisfaction of the demon senses. But they do not realize that their senses will never be satisfied. Never. Nonetheless, the Rakshasas are prepared to sacrifice everything to satisfy their whimsical desires. So you see, they're prepared to blow up the planet if they can get away with it. Literally, they're prepared to just blow up the planet. They're so madly controlled by their senses. We're all controlled by our senses. But they have the power to destroy tens of thousands, millions of people. They already do. Look at those two major wars we had in the 20th century. Tens of millions of people were killed. For what? It's going on all over the world, even today. It is very difficult for them to understand the real situation because they are overly enamored with material civilization. And then Prabhupada goes on to say, he asked the obvious question, who then can understand? Obviously the Rakshasas don't. So who can understand? Prabhupada goes on to say, those who are Mahatmas, whose hearts have become magnified to what? To understand that everything belongs to God, and I also belong to God. So who's prepared to accept that message? Who's prepared to even consider that one line? And then Prabhupada, in this shloka, Prabhupada is quoting, you see here in the second sentence, in Bhagavad Gita 1854, is clearly explained that an absolutely self-realized soul becomes completely aloof from all material desires. In our shloka from today. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochati Nakankshati Samatsarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. Prabhupada quoted this verse extensively, a lot. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes what? Prasanatma. And he's listening. He becomes Prasanatma. Fully joyful. Fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. You see? The most secret of all secrets. There's nothing secret about it if we open our ears and open our eyes and open our brain and get rid of the cabbage that's between our ears and just concentrate on what the philosophy is. It's there. There's no need for any bewilderment at all. And Prabhupada goes on to say, again, this is in reference to today's verse, but in the purport to 1854, Prabhupada says, to the impersonalist, achieving the Brahma Buddha stage, becoming one with the Absolute, is the last word. He thinks, yes, that's it. Let me become one with the Lord and merge into the Brahma Jyoti, the light. Everybody talks about the light and the energy. But for the personalist or pure devotee, one has to go still further. And what is that further? To become engaged in pure devotional service. This is it. This is the summum bonum for us. This is everything for us. This means that one who is engaged in pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord is already in a state of liberation. No matter what his position, no matter what he's doing, whether here, Swargaloka, hellish planets, wherever he is, He's already in a state of liberation, which is called Brahmabhuta. Oneness with the Absolute. That is oneness with the Absolute. To be engaged in service to the Absolute, that is oneness. That is perfection. Just like we were discussing the other day, Srimati Radharani, she cooks tens of millions of thousands of preparations for Krishna, and she never cooks the same one twice. And because of that, Krishna's love, it just increases. He just can't understand. How does she do it? It's beyond him. Just like he said to the gopis, when at the Battle of Kurukshetra, when the gopis came from Vrindavan, Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, everybody came to try and drag Krishna back. You're going to celebrate the Rath Yatra, I believe Kampala is first, and then Kasuma's on Christmas Day. So jingle bells, jingle all the way back to Goloka Vrindavan. That will be very nice to see. I'd like to see some photographs of that. Please send me. But when they were pretending to pull Krishna on the chariot back to Vrindavan, and everybody was pleading with Krishna for this and that and the other, what did Krishna say to the gopis? I'm bereft. I'm at a total loss. I have no way to repay you. The only way I can repay you is by your service. Your service is your payment. Imagine, Krishna's talking with the gopis. He's talking with Srimati Radharani. I can't pay you back. This is how you bind Krishna, like Mother Yashoda, with love. With love. Nothing else works. Brahmabhuta. Without being one with the Supreme, the Absolute, one cannot render service unto him. In the Absolute conception, there is no difference between the served, Prabhupada says, and the servitor. There's no difference. In fact, they're on an equal level. This is insane. On an equal level in terms of the love. The love is not divisible. The love is there. Yet, Prabhupada says, the distinction is there in a higher spiritual sense. Yes. And we always give that comparison. Prabhupada gives the example, the drop on the ocean. The drop is the same. In the material concept of life, Prabhupada says, when one works for sense gratification, there is misery. But in the absolute world, when one is engaged in pure devotional service, there is no misery. The devotee in Krishna consciousness has nothing for which to lament or desire. Since God is full, a living entity who is engaged in God's service in Krishna consciousness is also full. Becomes perfect in himself or herself. He's just like a river which is cleansed of all dirty water. It's flowing, it's constant, it's never cessation. Because a pure devotee has no thought other than Krishna. He is naturally always joyful. Naturally. So this is a very simple stuff. This purport, today's purport, standing in this position and putting your ankle plug up the evacuating hole. I have no idea. Prabhupada says in the last sentence, the results are more effective than those derived from the inner exercise of the life air. Concentration of the mind is more easily attained in these days by the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. And then Prabhupada goes on to say, for the devotee, stone in the street or gold, they're equal. They're exactly the same. How many times have you walked along the street and you see a stone there and you just kick it into the side, pretending you're playing football, that you're Ronaldo, playing for, 100,000 pounds a match. You just kick the stone on the side. If that was a piece of gold, would you kick it? So the devotee, he sees everything, gold or a piece of stone, as the same. So this is a way to measure where we're at. You see a bar of gold on the ground, you just kick it into the gutter. Okay, fine, go ahead. Or pick it up and, offer it to the deity, whatever. But this is where it's at. Always joyful, sees everything. There's no desire for material enjoyment. He knows every living entity is a fragmental part of the Supreme. And therefore, every living entity, even the Rakshasas, remember, they are eternal servant of Krishna. But they've forgotten, completely forgotten. They're so far away. Matas mrityur jnanam apohanam cha. Remember that verse? From me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. It's all there in the scriptures. But we have to pick it up and we have to put it into practice. The time is short. And now that we have it, we don't want to keep it for ourselves, just like Jesus gives the example of the talents. The man in the Bible, he gives talents to his servants. And he says, okay, you have these talents being coins. So you go out and spend them, or you multiply them, or you reduce them, or you keep them safe. You do whatever you want with them. Each servant gets 10 talents. One of them goes, buries it in the ground, keep it safe. So he doesn't add, he doesn't subtract. Another one goes and spends it frivolously. Another one goes and multiplies it. So we have this philosophy. And we have a duty, we have a responsibility to give it to others to the best of our ability in our own individual way. I can't copy the same way that you would talk to somebody. You can't copy the same way I would talk to somebody. We all have our own individual way of articulating things, of speaking. So we speak in our own way, according to our own ability, according to our desire. But I know for a fact, when you touch someone's heart, when you touch someone with the philosophy and they engage in the service of the Lord, that is a wonderful gift. That gives so much satisfaction. On the rare occasion when it does happen that I manage to touch somebody and it enters their heart and they say, wow, that's something else. It is. It's amazing. This is the Brahma Bhuta stage. Piece of gold, a piece of stone. And this stage is attained very easily, Prabhupada says, by the devotee. In that stage of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Brahman and annihilating one's individuality, that idea is hellish, Prabhupada says. Hellish. The idea of attaining the kingdom, the heavenly kingdom, is just like a phantasmagoria. It's a joke. Who needs it? Who wants it? Prabhupada said devotees prepare to go to hell. In fact, on one occasion, Prabhupada said, next stop is hell. That's where I'm going next. And the senses are like serpents whose poisoned teeth are broken for one who is engaged in devotional service. The senses are still there, but the poison broken. As there is no fear of a serpent with broken teeth, there is no fear from the senses when they're automatically controlled. The world is miserable for the materially infected person, but for a devotee, the entire world is as good as Vaikuntha. So we don't wait for tomorrow. We don't wait for the next birth. We don't wait for next week or the next second. Do it now. What is that? Verse? Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Forget the past that sleeps, and ne'er the future dream at all, but act in times that are with thee, and progress thee shall call. Forget the past that sleeps. It's gone. It's finished. It's over. Even from the time I started giving this talk, it's gone. That time is gone. And ne'er the future dream at all. Forget about the future. It's not there. Tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in its petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time, Shakespeare said. Tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in its petty pace from day to day. It never comes. I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, okay. It never happens. It's always now, the here and now. Forget the past that sleeps, and ne'er the future dream at all, but act in times that are with thee, and progress thee shall call. Act in times that are with thee, and progress thee shall call. This is now. This is here. The highest personality in this material universe is no more significant than an ant for a devotee. Lord Brahma, the ant, same spirit soul. Imagine the head of our sampradaya, the creator of this whole universe, the one who heard the sound, the Shabda Brahma, who created everything. He is the same as the ant. This is significant. And Prabhupada says such a stage can be achieved by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, who preached pure devotional service in this age. That's it. That's it. Forget about all this complicated stuff, sticking your ankle wherever it's supposed to go. I have no idea. But if we just engage in the process that's been given to us by Prabhupada and just go with it. Prabhupada is saying in one room conversation, this was in 1972, with Shama Sundar and Sudama Maharaj. Prabhupada says, we have to scrutinize everything. Yes, it is Brahminical qualification. A Brahmin will not accept anything simply because it is said by some rascal. A Sudra will accept because he has no intelligence. That is the difference between a Brahmin and a Sudra. It's not a caste system. Prabhupada says, because you're born the son of a high court judge doesn't mean that you're a high court judge. This is a nonsense idea. If you're born the son of a Brahmin doesn't mean that you're a Brahmin. You have to behave as such. Guna karma vibhagashaha, Krishna says. Division of qualities and actual activities according to that quality. But the problem is they misinterpret. They think, oh, this is caste system. It's nonsense. It's not caste system. But by the influence of Kali Yuga, Mahaprabhu says, Kalo Sudra Sambhava. Everyone is born Sudra. But so he does not know what is actual Brahminical qualification, just like how on earth can you go out to buy gold, Prabhupada says, if you don't know what gold is? One man, he demanded, can you show me God? Prabhupada said, yes, I can, but do you know what God is? Just like and he gave that example. If you don't know what gold is, and I show you a piece of brass, and I tell you this is gold, if you don't know what gold is, how will you know? So if I show you God, which I can in a second, how will you know? You don't have a clue. It's a stupid question. Because you're using your material idea, your material concept of what is God, what is the Supreme, and you're measuring it with that. It's not possible. Competition. And everybody's saying, oh, I'm as good as he is, and why shouldn't I be called a Brahmin? I should be given best facility. So-called Brahmin, caste Brahmin, he is working and his intelligence is like a Sudra. He is claiming by birthright. And to what extent are we all engaged in this? There must be a protest. This has happened. Otherwise, that division is perfect. Guna karma vibhagashaha. Anyone who comes to that quality, he becomes a Brahmin. Anyone. It's the qualification, not the position, not the title. That is the injunction of Shastra. Krishna says, Guna karma vibhagashaha. You have no qualification. You do not work according to your quality. Why are you claiming Brahman? That is self-evident. Krishna never said by birth. Never said. Kalo Sudra Sambhava. All are Sudras. Therefore, they accept everything cheaply and at once, the Sudras. And then Prabhupada goes on to say, yes. And Prabhupada says, the newspaper Said, Mr. Such and Such went to the moon planet. Oh, immediately they believe. Immediately. Because they read it in the newspaper. I saw it on the TV. I read it on social media. I saw it on Facebook. It has to be true. 10-cent newspaper, Prabhupada says. They're accepting the 10-cent newspaper over and above the Shastra. This is what we have come to. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yanti Deva Vrata Devan. One who wants to go to the demigods goes to the demigods. If that's where you want to go, pass. You want to go to the planet of the ancestors? Bas. Fine. You want to go follow the ghosts and spirits? Fine. That's what you want. That's what you get. So they never worship Chandra, Prabhupada says. How can they go to the Chandra moon planet? Then Krishna is false. Then Krishna must be wrong. How is that possible? Krishna is imperfect. This is the way they're thinking. Then they become the perfect one. They're defying Krishna's instruction. They've gone to the moon planet. Then our whole propaganda, Krishna consciousness, becomes bogus. Therefore, Prabhupada says, I kicked them in the face. Yes. They've not gone. They've not gone anywhere. They're just fooling people. And even if they went, what is the use of their going? They're bringing back some stones, bringing back some rocks. It's just like we could say, just like Columbus discovered America. So he went from Spain to America, and when he discovered this new world, then he picked up a few rocks off the beach in Florida, wherever he arrived, put them in his boat and brings them back to Spain. Say, look what I brought from the new world, some rocks. So the king of Spain is going, yeah, oh, and? So that's what we've done. We've gone to the moon and we brought back some rocks. We've no rocks here. We need moon rocks. I mean, and then they give Nobel Prize. They give Nobel Prize for this nonsense. And everybody is, Jai, Haribo, well done. The whole world is applauding, falling at their feet. Like in this verse, the translation that we're doing today, by the strength of scientific knowledge, one should be well situated in absolute realization and thus be able to distinguish all material desires. This is not the scientific knowledge the Bhagavatam is speaking of. This is not the scientific knowledge of NASA or the moon rocket people. That's not the science. The science spoken of here is the science of Krishna consciousness. That is the science. That is the reality. Just rocks. After 55 years since the moon landing, all we have to show are a few rocks. Wonderful achievement. So what's the use? What's the use? According to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. Chaturvarnyan. And although I am the creator of the system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. So Krishna just gives us all the facility. It's up to us how we use it, how we don't use it. And look what we have created. We've got some of the biggest slums in the world. People are living on less than $1 a day. The vast majority of the population of the planet is in misery. Where's the advancement? Where is the advancement here? What have we got to be proud of? Because we got an iPhone 15, then, oh, wow, you see? Super duper camera, click, 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 you know? I can connect to New York in a millisecond. Wow, wonderful. That's great. Will that put food on your table? Will that give you the goal of life? Will that give you everything to keep you happy? Will that save you from the process of birth and death and disease and old age? Your iPhone 15? Your Samsung Galaxy? No. Mrityu the Samsung or the iPhone won't save you. So the verse again, by the strength of scientific knowledge, one should be well situated in absolute realization and thus be able to extinguish all material desires. One should then give up the material body by blocking the air hole through which stool is evacuated with the heel of one's foot, and by lifting the air, the life air, from one place to another in the 6 primary places. So, thank you very much for listening. We have a couple of minutes. Any questions or comments? Thank you very much. Very grateful for your patience. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Jai.
Yes, Prabhu, when Prabhupada was mentioning that the servitor and the served becomes on an equal platform, it is an amazing thing, like what we see in the Krishna Leela. So Krishna's friends, Gopakumaras, are not accepting Krishna as God anymore. Since
Yes.
he claims to be God, he says,
Yeah.
I'm killing these demons, and I was Rama in my previous avatara, and then
Yes.
these and that, but
Yes.
Krishna's friends are not to be convinced.
They're doubting. they're doubting in a nice way.
Yeah.
Just like Mother Yashoda. Krishna's the big demon killer, and he killed so many demons and so on and so forth. And I mean, ultimately killed Kamsa and all of them. But when Mother Yashoda comes with a stick, he's a different story entirely.
Yeah.
He's the big guy, but when he sees Mother with a stick, wow. That's it. All this big bossiness business is gone completely. Do you see how to control Krishna? Wow. Yes, you're right. And that's the Gopas. They all had that doubt whether Krishna is God or not, and also the elders in Vrindavan with Nanda Maharaj. They had that meeting where it was discussed. Well, your son, he must be some kind of a devata or god or something. You must be joking. When he comes running into our room in the middle of the night when there's thunder outside, he's crying like a baby. Then everybody just falls on the floor laughing. Said, yeah, that's a crazy idea. How could he be God? Forget that one. So, yes, that's it. That's it. That's what we want. That's what we want. We want to get past this Aishvarya Leela and enter into the Madhurya. And we have to rise above the Kanishta stage, at least go to the Madhyam. I mean, Uttam. Prabhupada has come from the Uttam stage to the Madhyam stage in order to be able to preach. Otherwise, not possible. So the philosophy is wonderful. The philosophy is wonderful. It's so simple. It's so simple. Yes, you get all these complicated hatha yoga poses for entering the life air through these different stages of the body. But as Prabhupada says in the end, just chant Hare Krishna. Just chant. It's like Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalona, Stevana, Stevana, Stevana. That's it. Everything else is kind of like, but then when we are chanting, really enter into the mantra and dive in. That's where it's at. That's the nectar for which we are always hankering. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you, Prabhu. Hari Bol.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Are there any other questions, comments? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Prabhus
Prabhu.
and Mataji. Then well pronounced. Vidura Prabhu. Thank you for the wonderful class. Very inspiring.
Thank you.
Very vibrant words. Especially the quotes from Srila Prabhupada. It's always inspiring. Actually, all of you Prabhus and Matajis are Prashanatma. I am just designated to be a servant. So yes, you're very wonderful devotees with wonderful qualities. Haribol.
Sure.
Just a small, I noticed it's about going to the moon and technology. Since you mentioned both, Prabhu, when they claimed yes that they went to the moon, but even when you compare the technology then and now, I think you're also the one who mentioned how they used to call those days from New York to call to another city in the same place. It will take so much just to reach the other side. But even now with the iPhones and everything, it's still very difficult. We haven't had a case of anyone stepping onto the moon recently, but they claim they went then with such old and out of age technology. So yeah, I think I just noticed that. Very good.
Yeah, when I was in the temple in Dublin, this is over 40 years ago, and we were connected. The GBC for London and Dublin was the same GBC for both countries. When we had to make a phone call, this is 1979, 10 years after they went to the moon. When we had to make a phone call from Dublin to London, we had to go through an operator. You couldn't dial direct. And yet, Richard Nixon, the president, was talking to the moon from a landline, not even a digital phone, a landline. So did they run the wire all the way up to the moon from the desk of the Oval Office? I mean, it's just, and the reason they haven't gone back since those moon landings is they claim, NASA's saying, oh, we lost the files. I mean, their computer, their big mainframe computer, huge big thing, was 10 megabytes. 10 megabytes? My phone is 128 gigs, right? My phone. And they had 10 megabytes that they sent a rocket to the moon with 10 megabytes. And when Buzz Aldrin was landing on the moon with his space moon module, there was somebody there with a camera filming him as he was landing. So the cameraman was there before him. So how did that work out? And yet they claim they just had enough fuel to go from the mothership onto the moon landing module. They just barely made it with seconds to spare. So then how did they get back to the moon mothership? Did they go to the petrol station on the moon? They went to the local Esso that was run by the moon people. And the moon is, as we know from scripture, the moon is the planet that's giving taste to vegetables. All taste is coming from the moon. And yet, when they went to the moon, they didn't see even a single carrot. Nothing. So the moon, the source of taste coming from the moon planet, and yet the moon itself hasn't got a single cabbage. No subji. So we'd be lost. No chapatis, nothing. Anyway, they're all crazy. Prabhupada used to say, who's crazy? They used to accuse us of being crazy. Prabhupada said, but who's crazy? And Prabhupada analyzed their insanity. When you put it in perspective, you can see it's mad. Mad. We're so fortunate we have this philosophy. We have to hang on to it at every cost. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol.
Yeah. Prabhu, Prasanatma Prabhu, can you end the session by?
Okay, Haribol. Thank you so much, Prabhu. I won't go so much over the time, but thank you for the wonderful class. As always, very inspiring, and coming to the conclusion that the most important thing is just devotional service. Just be simple and just to chant Hare Krishna with our heart and soul and mind and everything we have. So thank you so much, Prabhu. Very inspiring, and we wish to have you again and again and again. Thank you.
Jai.
I request all the devotees to please unmute and chant Hare Krishna in glorification of His grace, Vidura Prabhu. Please let's
Jai.
chant. Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare.
Pancha.
Panchakalpa
Sakal
Truvishta Kripa Sindhubhevcha Patitanam Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Namo
Namaha.
Namaha. Hari Hari Bol.
Jai
Jai.
Bol. Srila
Thank you
Prabhupada
very
ki.
much. Jai. Hari Bol. Good night, everybody. Hari Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol. Good night.